Hey, what's up, YouTube? How's Talks back out here in the wood shop. This isn't really for you guys, but, well, I'm gonna do a little talk. I got 4 topics I wanna go over. But yeah, the wood shop's gonna be looking different. Made some major changes to it today. Gonna finish it up tomorrow, so check out our other channel, Howzu Builds. No, Howzu Built. And you can see it's gonna be our new and improved wood shop tour. Should be up either tomorrow or the next day, whatever. But let's get right into this. Saturday, June 4th. What do I got? Face ID, of course. All right, so here we go. My first note today is the man who knows how to get things done can't get anything done, right? Isn't that what my dude campaigned on? Sitting in his basement, that he's been in politics for over 50 years or 46 years, 47 years. He knows how to work together, bipartisan, to get things done. Meanwhile, we got like 2 straight years now of just chaos and like bullshit that we're living through. And he can get things done, but he ain't getting nothing done, right? Like inflation ain't no better, fuel prices ain't no better, baby formula ain't no better, housing market and economy is not any better. I mean, everything's crashing down around him, you know? He's like everything's crashing around his administration right now. And you can see it every time he talks and he reads from the script that they're writing him and how angry he seems because he really doesn't have any control over this, you know? Whatever, I realize that my rhetoric, if you will, is gonna make me a domestic terrorist. And I've got some pretty strong opinions about some stuff as we've talked about. I mean, I haven't even really expressed my strong opinions. I try to keep it semi-neutral if I can, you know? I'll assure you from go though, I'm not transphobic, I'm not homophobic, I'm not a racist, I'm none of those things. But I think there's a time and place for it, and I don't think that things should be forced down our throats for us to accept or for me to accept. And I don't think that my speech should be coerced by anybody. I don't think anybody has that right over me to tell me what I can and I cannot say. So, you know, but I'm concerned. More than ever, I'm not concerned for me. I'm not concerned for my wife or my adult children. I'm concerned for my granddaughters. You know, 2 beautiful, 1-month-old, innocent, sweet, like entire world ahead of them. People, girls, young girls, that are gonna have to deal with this chaos and this bullshit. And if I have any saving grace or anything in this talk at all that like makes me feel good, and it's that I'm young enough. I'm hoped I'm young enough that I can get my shit together and lose some weight and get in shape, that I can see them through, you know, a large portion of their lives. Because they deserve to grow up in a safe environment where they feel loved and feel good about, you know, they feel good about who they are, and that they shouldn't have to be rehearsing their speech, coerced into the things that they can say and they can't say. They don't need to believe that because they're Caucasian, that they're privileged, and they shouldn't look down on anybody ever. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason for that, you know? And they're gonna face hardships and hard times, and I'm hoping that I'm there and I'm gonna face it with them, with a sense of realism and how you deal with hard times and you know, adversity. not like some kind of like wishful pie in the sky, everything should be this way kind of rhetoric. You know, that's not how I do it. I live in the real world, as I always have, you know. And I dealt with a lot of adversity in my own life, and I had to see myself and whatnot through a lot, you know, and so I know how to deal with it, and I'm experienced in that sense. And I feel blessed that potentially I'm going to be here for them to, you know, face a lot of their own things that they have to, you know. I know I started this off, and I'm long-winded because that's what I do. That's why I wear How Zoo Talks. But yeah, back to the man who knows how to get things done can't get anything done. When will the accountability kick in, right? Like I hate to sit here because it's so divisive to begin with. And I don't want to be the Democrats this and the Democrats that, you know? Because I'm also not on the Republicans say this and this should be this way. Because I think they're all full of shit. Like, when are we gonna hold them accountable, for real? When is America, real America, like, people gonna wake up and be like, enough is enough, you know? I'm not talking about car violence. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about real Americans, like our founding fathers that wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all that shit that they thought through, because they were, as we discussed last night, our founding fathers were ordinary people. They were ordinary people who became extraordinary leaders. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt of being extraordinary leaders, right? They were ordinary people, they went on to become extraordinary leaders. And they wrote extraordinary laws and legislation for us to, you know, to live our lives by, more or less. But there's such hopelessness and helplessness in the world right now, and such division that I can only assume that that's the cause of the violence that we are seeing on a daily basis in our towns and cities and unfortunate schools and whatnot. But remember, again, we go back to the man who's been in office for 47 years knows how to get things done. What's he getting done? Tell me what's changed. Nothing, right? Nothing has changed. All right, on to our next subject. You know, I read something yesterday that seemed like, I'm gonna make a correlation here, right? And I'm gonna ask a question first, because a lot of people have gotten really wealthy on cryptocurrencies. And I'm a little skeptical of them, honestly, because part of it seems too good to be true. I wish I was part of Dogecoin when it was 7 zeros out and bought, you know, 1.5 million shares as it went to 5 decimal points, you know, 5 zeros below the decimal point, like not realizing that 2 decimal point jump of owning 1.5 million shares, what that could actually equate. It's amazing. It's like a dream. I wish I had that foresight, you know. It was about the time or just before, it was during like the Wall Street bets thing, and when Elon was, you know, talking about Dogecoin to the moon, blah, blah, blah. But you know, like anything else, if you're buying into something when it's being talked about the most and it's the biggest that it is, you're more than likely too late, you know? Christ, to keep shutting off. But cryptocurrency. So here's my question. Is cryptocurrencies a test run for the World Economic Forum to institute a digital currency and eliminate our cash? Right? It's a good question. I think it's a valid question. And if you watch the Davos interviews and whatnot, and things that they talked about, this is exactly what they talked about. They talked about 3 years out, 5 years out, being in a position where we're going to have a digital coin that, basically the entire world runs off of. And because of that, all of our transactions, all of our movements, all of our purchases, everything will be disclosed. There'll be no, and there'll be no cash. Nobody will have $1 million in cash sitting in their bedroom. I don't know what the rappers will do. The rappers, they make the videos where they got $1 million. I don't know what Floyd Mayweather's going to do. You know how many videos he has out there where he's got just millions of dollars in cash all over the place? Now he's going to have to use digital currency that he pays taxes on. Think about that. It's going to fundamentally change our world. Obviously it's going to fundamentally change our world, but it's going to change us from the standpoint of a financial world, but our cultural world as well, because we value and put cash on such a pedestal that they eliminate it. What are we doing as a culture to be flashy and show off? When we're all equal, if you will. I know we'll never all be equal, but again, it's just not going to have the same, it's not going to have the same zing to it that, that $1 million in cash would have. That's all. But I guarantee you this, and I wrote this down, they won't need to force us into it. They will just create some sort of crisis and we'll beg for it. We will. They'll create some kind of financial crisis that if we're not all on, it's like when COVID-19 came out and they started saying that it's pass-through money. So it'll be something like that. Maybe it'll be monkeypox, who fucking knows? But, it'll be some kind of crisis that we have to get rid of cash as a society and as a people around the world and turn to this thing. This is the only way to keep people safe, right? That's what it'll turn into. We'll go back to that kind of verbiage. In order to keep people safe, cash has to disappear forever. And the populace will beg for it. The same way they beg to have their DNA altered with the COVID-19 vaccines. People were out there, people are still out there campaigning for the vaccine manufacturers that, again, you can't sue. No matter what kind of negative effect you had, you can't go after them. Pfizer's got no accountability. Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, no accountability. You can't say a word to them. You can't say a word about the people who created all those other vaccines. The measles, mumps, and rubella, whoever it is that's manufacturing them. Everything goes through the VAERS court thing. And for whatever reason, our government taxes us and puts money into this VAERS lawsuit fund. And if you have a negative effect, that's what you can get paid out of, which is funded by taxpayers, not from the profit of the pharmaceutical companies. Go figure, they got no accountability, but they want to hold accountable all the manufacturer of firearms for the things that people do with the products that they buy from them, Seems a little hypocritical, don't you think? Again, it's one of those questions. When are we going to wake up and move forward with this? I find this interesting. This is a really hard topic. I started this off by saying I'm not homophobic, I'm not racist, I'm not transphobic. I'm none of those things. You have the right to do what you want to do. I may have opinions. I may have an opinion that I don't think that a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old can decide their gender. Not when they're under the influence of their peers. Because everybody in the world has seen the result of peer influence. We've been dealing with suicides, we've been dealing with drug overdoses, we've been dealing with teenage pregnancies, we've been dealing with all kinds of things for decade upon decade that are peer-related influence things. But for some reason, this whole transgender thing has gotten a pass. and it's no longer peer related. And if you don't go with it, then you are transphobic. But I did find this interesting because I've been watching clips of the Matt Walsh, how do you define a woman thing, which is pretty interesting. In full disclosure, I'm not subscribed to the Daily Wire, but I'm going to subscribe to them. I'm not subscribed to them not because I don't believe in what they do, or I mean, I like a lot of their footage and stuff, and I really enjoy watching it for free, honestly. That's what this is about, money. But at the price of $15 a month, if they're going to be putting out raw footage like this thing, and like I said, the Candace Owens interviews over the George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter thing, I'm interested. I'm curious. You know, I think it's healthy perspective to watch and to hear the other side of this. And that's not to say that I don't think that, you know, George Floyd was killed and whatnot, you know, but I got opinions on it as well, you know. Although I think that the police over-responded and there was certainly a lot of neglect, and I think other police officers should have spoken up and intervened, and I don't think that another police officer should have knelt on somebody's neck for, you know, 9 minutes. I also don't think that that person's intent was murder, you know, and so I don't think that a life sentence is justified in this case, you know. I certainly don't think he should be a police officer. He showed unprofessionalism at the very least, and you know, again, maybe influence to his peers. Maybe because he had rookie officers with him, he was showing off a little bit how he was in control of the situation. Whatever the case would be, but I don't think that his intent was murder. And so much death and destruction has come about since that, you know, at the hands of protesters and Black Lives Matter and whatnot, that, you know, and you know, it's a thing that you can't touch, that nobody can talk about. I don't know. I'm skeptical, you know, as I've been skeptical. And as you watch my channel and you subscribe to me, you see I'm skeptical of a lot of things. I'm skeptical of our government, of our Democrats, of our Republicans, of all of the protests and the movements and the things around the world, and the transgender movement, and, you know, the LGBTQ and the cancel culture and the way they want to shut down everybody, and the cancel Dave Chappelle, and, you know, like all this stuff, man. It gets old and it gets tiresome, and I'm fed up with a lot of it, you know. But I'm skeptical of all of it because I think it's all bullshit, you know. I did find it interesting though with the Matt Walsh thing, right? He's in that interview with that doctor or whoever. I don't know if she's a doctor or who she is, and she's describing how puberty blockers are reversible, and you know, and I guess like anything that you take is reversible, but like it doesn't come without consequence. And like, it's interesting that it has, you know, like when Joe Rogan was taking, when Joe Rogan got COVID and he was taking that ivermectin, right? Like how it was reported that ivermectin was a horse paste, remember? Like he got reported that he was some kind of fool and buffoon for taking a horse paste, a veterinarian medicine. And yet, they're giving little girls in this country the same thing that they chemically castrate sex offenders with, you know, who serve lifelong prison sentences. So a little girl can take the same medicine to block her puberty that a man that's supposed to completely suppress a man's urge, sexual desires and whatnot. And you think that that comes without a cost. People talk about that in open forums like it comes without a cost. There are the things that I draw the line at. Because like, and you saw it in the Matt Walsh interview. The moment he brought that up, the woman called off the interview. She said, I don't think I can talk to you anymore. Why? Because the man is showing some truths. He's talking about some things and they don't know how to respond to it. They don't know how to handle that allegation. They don't know how to have that conversation. Like, it's crazy, you know? I think that it's really important. I think that if you're gonna go that extra mile and you're gonna push this movement this hard and you're gonna give these people this thing, that there should be some serious testing on the long-term effects of that kind of medicine given to a prepubescent little girl and what it might do to her in the long term. I'm not talking about the older guy who became transgender, who does a lot of crying in the end, you know what I mean? He was a fool, he was a sucker, you know? And I feel bad that he's got such regret that he has to live with. But like, I'm talking about young people, like 15, 16, 17 years old who never lost a fucking soccer game, who've only gotten participation trophies all their lives, who just decide for the fun of it or because of the peer pressure or because of the whatever, the clickiness and the whatever, that, oh, we're gonna be boys. Or vice versa. But I think it's a lot more prevalent that girls are gonna be boys. But, you know, whatever. However it is, you know. Last thing I want to talk about is, and I found this interesting, I found this out today, the National Guard is being deployed in Baltimore to police crime in the city because they defunded the police departments. You want me to say that again? The National Guard is being deployed. Right now there's an argument, there's a conversation being had about the National Guard being on the streets of Baltimore. No, the National Guard is here for like, if something big is happening, some kind of event is happening, some kind of terrorism event, some kind of worldwide event, some kind of coastal event, some kind of thing that we're being invaded, right? But no, we got prostitutes, thugs, gang violence, thugs, shootings, robberies, rapes, sexual assaults, drive-by shootings, and the only way to solve that, although they have a police force that got defunded, is now we need our U.S. government to send in the National Guard. And there's a lot of people with problems over that happening, you know. For one, the residents don't like it. And I don't blame them for not liking it. But like, at the same time, it was probably the residents who voted to have the police department defunded. So it's kind of like, well, you got what you asked for, in a sense. What did they think was gonna happen? You know, you think that because you defund the police, what do you think, crime is happening because of the police presence? No. Like, people aren't committing crimes because the police are around, but now the police are gone. And so more people can commit more crimes. And it's getting out of hand, and people are getting scared. You know, it's probably getting a little too close to home. Maybe it's moving out of I don't know a lot about Baltimore, but like, I will say that my daughter used to go to Johns Hopkins Wills and an eye center